Salutations, fellow Bionicle enthusiasts. I am the one they call Stippling, purveyor of custom CCBS creations completed in one half-turn of the hour, spawned out of the abyss of my own existence. I'm not sure what I just said, but needless to say it sounded important. I'm joined today by fellow builder Stipalu, whose life has been reduced to holding a plastic bucket full of pieces of paper.
I hate you.
On each of these sheets of paper are a distinct and unique challenge. Each challenge has been carefully selected to add an exhilarating twist to the task. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what today's challenge is. Okay, we got our challenge, and today's challenge is... build a mock that only uses pieces with balls or sockets on them. Yet again, we have another challenge that I chose myself, so that means the bucket's getting fuller and fuller of custom fan-based ideas. So this challenge is going to be interesting. No Technic unless it has a ball or socket on it. I actually forgot this one was in here, so my mind never really kind of played out what I would do with this. Any suggestions for me, Stipalu?
You will fail and I will laugh.
Well, I've never really seen you laugh, so I'm not really buying that. But anyways, everyone else stay tuned for the results of last week's fan-selected challenge and listen in for how you can suggest your ideas for 30-minute mocks. I'm also trying to contemplate whether or not the sped-up version of the build is a good way of showcasing how I do the build, or if I should do kind of segments of the build, like interesting parts of it. The sped-up version allows you to see that I never messed with or tampered with anything, but it can be boring and maybe hard to follow at times, I think. Anyways, let's go ahead and get going with this.
Hey guys.
Anywho, so once we get started, there will be no stopping. So no bathroom breaks, no redos, no nothing. So I'm gonna hit this clock and we're gonna get going here in 3, 2, please help me, 1. Ah! And I broke him. The very end I broke him. That's extremely disappointing. Stippling was right, I failed. Let's bring him into the shop. Alright, so in the spirit of fairness and following my own rules, this is what I came up with. It's two halves of a mock, the upper half and the lower half. I kind of blew it right at the end. I wanted to fill out some of the holes inside him, and he just snapped in half right as the clock ticked out. I really gotta watch that clock the last couple seconds. But, I mean, it's not gonna be much fun to watch if this is all you get to see. So, in this case, oh my gosh, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna put him back together so you can see what I had intended. So, this just snapped here. And then this had just fallen off right there. So that's all. It just broke at the last second, me trying to fill in right about there. So now that we fixed that fatal error, this is what I came up with. It may look goofy to you, it may look kind of dumb or incomplete, but when you really come down to it and you think about what CCBS is at its core, this is it. Balls, sockets, and nothing else. I couldn't even fathom how difficult this challenge would be and how limiting my parts would be. I couldn't even use pins to attach other things with ball sockets on them. So I really couldn't do much of anything. Let's take a closer look at what this guy has. His main feature would be the 4 arms, and as I was building it, I obviously took inspiration from General Grievous, who is a highly CCBS-based build, so when the extra sockets came about, I just went ahead and gave him the arms. I do like how I use these these boot pieces for the lower legs as shoulders instead. I think that makes it a cool little flow there. I've always wanted to do that, I've just never made a mock large enough to accommodate that. I had a real hard time figuring out how to get coverage on his upper thighs, and I just had to realize that it doesn't have to be permanent, so these are actually just on their own bone piece and then just folded along there. And with this extra friction backbone piece, it still kind of follows along pretty well. The head was a very limiting factor. I couldn't use a mask, so I used this Hero Factory head, and the best I had was one in regular, I guess that's regular trans blue. So it kind of breaks the mold. But if you think about it, a lot of Bionicle sets have different color eye stalks versus their normal color scheme. So it's not too far-fetched to think a slightly different blue would be on his head. His back has this large hump, and that was primarily for coverage sake, but you can imagine maybe he stores water or crystals in here. Obviously, they don't make ball and socket-based weapons as far as I can remember, so I couldn't really attach any weapons to him. I probably forgot something that had a ball or socket on it that I could have used in this instance. But again, this is what I came up with, and without being able to use axles, pins, or any other kind of connecting piece, it made my options extremely limited. So now's the fun part of every episode where I decide which challenge I will use and add to the bucket. This week's challenge was written by Renzo Mocs, and his idea was to build an alternate version of Lord of Skull Spiders that can unite with any of the Toa. He also must include a random function. Nope, I forgot that part. Note, he does not need to have the same function that is in the official set. He also must retain the same color scheme, that of which Toa that you unite him with. Example, an Ice Lord of Skull Spiders for Kopaka, or a Jungle Lord of Skull Spiders for Liwa. Now, that's obviously a pretty complex challenge, so we'll see how I do with that. And in fact, I already printed it out. So that's going to go right in the bucket at the end of this video. So remember, if you have any interesting ideas or suggestions for challenges that I can try to attempt to do in 30 minutes, please share that in the comments. Also, don't forget to let me know if you like the fast-forwarded style of video versus the clip for the build section. And last, don't forget to comment on the video itself. I get a lot of comments on the next video, what they want to see, and that's great. I love seeing a lot of options for challenges, but I would like to know if you liked the video itself too, if you liked what I created, if you think I totally messed up, if you have suggestions for things I should have done, etc. So as always, thanks for watching, and I look forward to the next 30-minute mock on Thursdays.